would love to hear your opinion about what I see like the double standard when it comes to gender and sexuality. So the first thing is I would love to come back to something that I discussed with Christy and Serafina last time when I called it. When it's come to dating and ethnicity and race. Something that kind of strange to me that, for example, you know, I am Asian. That's my race. And I am Vietnamese. That is my ethnicity, right? So if I said to you, I want to be with an Asian man because we look more similar. It's a bit easier for us in the term of cultural understanding. It's going to be better in the long run. People will say, well, good for you. That's admirable. And same thing, if I say to you, you know, I want to date a Vietnamese guy because I think we had the same background, it's going to be, our future will be more stable. People will say that's wonderful. However, let's say if somebody have let's say you a Caucasian from let's say come from a German background. Let's say, you know, I want to be with a German guy because it's easier, you know, for our future because we have similar background. People may say that's okay, but if you say I want to date another white man because it's easier, etc., and all of a sudden he's a racist. So, you know, I don't understand why we have that sort of double standard. So I hope you guys can. I would like to hear your opinion about that.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to unpack there. And one part of it is it's important to remember that you're not directly comparing apples and oranges as much as it might seem like it, because we're talking about, you know, people dating within their race or within their race. But we're also talking about the difference between being Asian and being white, frankly. And in this country, there is a big difference simply in the sense that white folks are the dominant culture. And so there is a little bit of a distinction there as we, you know, start to unpack all of this.
And I think it's important, Chris, you used the word culture, and I think it's important there to distinguish between the difference between the race and ethnicity and the culture of that specific person. I think the culture of that specific person plays a bigger role than the, you know, color of the skin or the ancestry.
Yeah, so keeping all of that in mind, I think the very quick answer that we can then kind of build upon is that you're attracted to who you're attracted to. You know, whatever they look like, whatever gender they are, whatever sexual parts they have, whatever it is that attracts you to them, whether it's their fascination with anime, whether it's how well they smoke a brisket, whatever turns you on, turns you on. And that's fine and great and wonderful. I do think that there is some pushback when folks fetishize people because of a specific race, and you know, oftentimes it's because we tend to dehumanize people based on the way that they look, or we think that they're exotic, and we introduce all of these sort of assumptions and stereotypes. But at the end of the day, I do think it's reality and okay and natural that you're attracted to who you're attracted to.
Yeah,
I see.
Yeah, I mean, okay, so you can be attracted to whoever you're attracted to, and a lot of times people are attracted to certain characteristics which may be associated with certain races. That's a normal thing. And you can have those attractions or those repulsions on the other end of things for good reasons or bad reasons or just neutral reasons. And it's hard for someone outside of that to know what those reasons are. I mean, speaking for myself, it's hard for me to know what my reasons are for attractions because they happen so far beneath my level of conscious thought. I'm not thinking, oh, should I be attracted to this person because of their large earlobes or perhaps because of their short hair?
The symmetry of their buttocks
Yes.
is appealing to me.
It happens before that. And there's this whole swimming full of ideas and stereotypes and history and culture that we're immersed in that is definitely affecting all of that. And some of that is bigotry, and some of that is racism, and because we grow up in cultures with that. So, I'm not going to, condemn anyone who says, oh, I want to be with someone who is this, out of hand. But I'm also not going to say, oh, well, this is just automatically fine, because, there's a lot of people who are having these preferences and stating these preferences for bigoted reasons. And a lot of times that's not even meaning that this person is a bigot or this person is a racist. It's just that's just part of the water we swim in.
Unfortunately, yeah. So
great.
does that help at all with kind of the questions you had?
It's not something there's a simple answer to.
No, it's really a very complicated and a lot of times situational. Yeah.
I do think it's very
Yeah,
situational and comes down
somewhat,
to just being kind to others. I'm sorry to step on what you were saying.
Oh, no, I just want to say, that's helped a little bit, and it's something that I would love to expand a bit more in other areas because Megan is here. I would love to hear your opinion about this, Megan. So that's something I would love. I would want to represent, and then I want to say, as from a woman perspective, how do you see this? So when I was in college a few years ago, I planned to study nursing, and I took a class with this woman. We really good classmates. We study partners. She's a Caucasian woman, and then she told me that, this is a good time for you to enter this program because you're a guy and you're Asian, so you have more chance to get into the program compared to me because I'm a woman and I'm Caucasian. So when it comes to counting the lottery into the healthcare, then you get more upper hand than I do. And to be honest with you, Megan, I'm not sure if I should feel honored or insulted by it. So the implication is that my academic is not good enough, to get in, but have to have some sort of mercy, from people who accept me simply because of my gender and my race. So I feel like it's not fair. And even though I am a minority, but I think when it comes to healthcare, compassion and the skill of the professional should be the main factor, not because the person is belong to a gender minority or racial minority. So I think that's not something I feel like really fair in our system.
Affirmative action is a really tricky subject. And Harvard University is facing a lawsuit right now over their admission standards and specifically dealing with Asian populations. And so these are very tricky subjects, and they may seem like a great idea on paper, but they get a little bit more tricky and difficult when you hear a story from an individual that feels like they may have been excluded or whatever.
Or the opposite of being included because of something. And that comes back to something that we like to call benevolent racism or benevolent sexism, where you gain an advantage based on a minority aspect of your being. I personally am not a fan of I'm white, so I can't really speak from any, race or ethnicity standpoint, but as a woman, I can say benevolent sexism really bothers me because that means I didn't earn it. That means you're holding the door for me not because you want to be a good person, but because, you know, I'm a helpless woman.
Dainty and fragile and need that extra help.
Right. And
really glad you didn't clock me just then because you are not dainty or fragile and I don't want to be hit by you.
No, because I will do some damage. We don't want to mess up that pretty face. But I think it can go, of course, both ways. I would have to say that of course, racism, bigotry, sexism, all of that, in all the negative ways, is far and beyond horrible and terrible and should not happen. I think as we push toward attempting equality, I think we need to make sure we're not going in the opposite direction and saying, oh, because I want to be progressive, I'm going to actually put this person because of whatever aspect of their person ahead of the game. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I get your idea, Megan. And on when you speak about equality, there's something I would love to hear your opinion as well. I guess on the news you received on the news, it's I think a few years ago in Ohio, there was a student who wanted to open on his own fund a scholarship for white male or something like that. I think, and then the school shut down the program and does not allow it now. From my perspective, I'm all about equality because I immigrated from a communist country. I understand how oppressive totalitarian was like. So, you know, let's say if I have, an Asian, scholarship for all Asian students, I would be qualified, and you are not because you are not Asian, right? And let's say if I have, Chinese scholarship, I would not be qualified because I'm Vietnamese, I'm not Chinese. So I think it's just fair, and if the students say, I want this scholarship just for this group of people because they are Caucasian, they are men, and I think that's fair. It's not like the school have to, give them any fund for that. It's just the student will it on itself. So I don't understand why we don't allow that option to open. If he's truly a racist, it will be exposed itself. We don't have to, shut it down just because we find it sort of inconvenient. So what do you think about that, Megan? And you too.
Yeah. So again, at the risk of offending some people, I think I would have to agree with you that if we're talking about playing, on an even playing field, and if the funds were not coming from any public place, and if they were just coming from a private source, then sure, the private source can go ahead and say, I'm going to give this this grant or this whatever for student aid to the best essay about holding forks and pitchforks and
whatever criteria comes to mind.
In the best Nazi rally, whatever.
Those things are allowed to exist, but I also think that if
you
my
don't have
university
to platform them.
If my university said we don't want your Nazi award scholarship,
right,
and we have the right to shut that, we have, I would actually be glad for that if they're willing to be discerning.
Yes, if the university does not want to platform or to provide that through their university or college, that is fine. That does not, however, mean that this wonderful human being should not be allowed to provide this at a private level.
Yeah, but I do think that any business, a university in particular, can say no thank you to that money.
And of course, we're seeing
and has a
that
responsibility to do so in certain circumstances.
And we're seeing that with speakers now. You know, with people being up in arms about universities not providing a platform for certain speakers. So the existence of it, I would agree, should be allowed. The manner in which it is publicized, that's a different story.
Yeah, I mean, we have the right to free speech in this country, and that's an important right. But we also have the responsibility to be discerning and to reject bullshit.
Yeah.
Sit down, kids. Auntie Sarah's about to learn you something. So the reason for these policies that you're talking about is that when we look at hiring practices and admissions practices and the way that we have systematically treated people for literally centuries and still are, we see pretty much undeniably that we have not been giving fair opportunities to people who are not fitting the right categories, white people, males, rich people, etc. So the farther you are away from a white male cis rich guy, the farther you are from advantages. And we wanted to change that. We wanted to do something about that, but we couldn't change people's minds. We couldn't go to each company and each school and each professor and each boss and make them understand hey, this needs to change. So what we did what we could do, which was make a systemic change to sort of force their hand and get more opportunities for the people who were already being unfairly treated. It's not perfect, and it's not going to be perfect. There's always going to be problems with it. There's always going to be someone who feels they were unfairly treated. It's going to mess up, but it's helping. It has helped. If you look at statistics, since we started things like affirmative action programs, things have been getting a little better for people of color, for women, for LGBT people who were public about it. We're seeing more of them now being able to have voices. We're seeing more of them getting educations. We're seeing more of them in better paying jobs. And we still have a long way to go on that. So I would not in any sense say that it's time to start saying, hey, well, let's just throw that stuff out and just
let it stay.
Let it slide. Let all the whites have it.
Yeah. Speaking as three white people sitting around a table. Yeah, I would agree with that. They should, whoever wants to do this should have the right to be able to do whatever they want with their money. But that does not mean that any university or any organization, period, should accept that money through that university. Now, whether that comes in, to the person and then cash to the school is a different story. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Megan, can I ask you one more question? Is this okay with you?
Yeah, just I think one last question because we have a couple callers. Yeah.
Sure, thank you. Mm-hmm. So do you think maybe because the problem with our society that we create a double standard when it comes to, men and women? For example, at my workplace, people know that I'm gay, so let's say, if a female coworker joking something about me and I pat on her back, she laughs about it and we have a good time. However, if some straight guy come and he behaves exactly as I do, and I could tell that she's a bit okay, so don't touch me, or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I see like in this society, it seems like if a man hit a woman, then you are not kind. But if a woman hit a man, then a girl hit a guy, and we say, oh, she's just a girl. She would grow out of that. It's no big deal. So I feel like I feel like maybe our culture like set up the social implication that because you're a woman, you would pass, some sort of privilege, and if you're a guy, you're supposed to behave a certain way. So therefore, it seems like people can get away with certain behavior and then would not get punished for that. But at the same time, we seem to have like 4 accusations against straight men just because they seem like they don't fit in. How do I say this? Like they don't like because of the stereotype, so they seem like they had to suffer the consequences. I feel like it's not fair either. Does it make sense to you what I say?
Yeah, what you're saying does make sense.
Yeah.
So what I would like that is a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
So I think yes, there is a double standard. I will tell you from personal experience that I have gay friends, I have straight friends, I have trans friends, I have just friends and coworkers. And to be completely honest, I'm just as uncomfortable when my gay friends sneak up behind me and give me a hug as I am when my straight friends sneak up behind me and give me a hug. Personally, it does not matter. I think for some women, though, the perception is intent. And intent has a lot to do with it. Because with a gay man, you can be pretty sure that their intent is not to feel up a boob or, to grope your ass or whatever.
Yeah.
But with a straight man, unfortunately, in our culture and in the world at large, we can't, as women, be so certain. Now, to address the point of false accusations, I think this comes down to women being more, I will not say they are not false accusations, women being more comfortable, feeling safer, making claims toward inappropriate behavior. And the men not realizing what they did was fucking inappropriate. Because like it or not, there is behavior that is inappropriate. Now, if you go up and pat someone on the back and they don't have a problem with it, but another person goes up and pats them on the back, maybe you might want to look at your behavior. It's kind of that benevolent sexism again. Where you're getting a pass because you're gay, which is not necessarily a good thing.
Ideal, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that the short way of looking at it is just to remember that it's a little juvenile to think that we should all be treated the same. We all believe in equality, but we also recognize that there's a certain level of discernment, a certain level of nuance that goes into that. And photocopying or photoshopping one person out of a situation and somebody else into that situation is not always the best way to evaluate the appropriateness of behavior. That doesn't mean that some people should get a pass and others shouldn't. It's to say that it's juvenile to think that everybody should be treated exactly the same because we simply don't live in a completely fair and equal society. And until that happens, there is going to be a little bit of thinking, a little bit of reading, a little bit of learning that goes into being able to process these types of interactions.
But just to wrap it up with a bow, I do want to say the idea of false accusations, I think, comes down to the difference in perception between the offender and the offendee.